All right, welcome back for another episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022. If you're not done so already, give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. By the way, today, August 23rd, 1 year anniversary of Carnivore Trades. Thank you to everybody who's been following me and supporting me, YouTube, Twitter, on the website, been a member, since day one. It's really been a wild ride, and here's to more of it in the future. Anyways, let's get into it. So S&P here, really I would just call this a pause day today after the big downdraft yesterday. So bulls kind of tried to rally it back. We had kind of like a flat open. Bulls tried to rally it back up. You can see here on the daily, a lot of charts look very similar to the spiders today. So kind of a gap up, and then that kind of like, that tail on the top side of the candle, kind of like a shooting star almost. Not a topping tail, but a tail candle on top. We tried to rally up in the morning, and the bears kind of just maintained control throughout the day. I wouldn't make too much out of it, but I do think that we test lower prices probably tomorrow, based on the fact that the bulls really just kind of gave up here. So we got kind of hourly and short-term oversold. You can even see kind of like on the E-mini. By the way, I love that rising wedge breakdown. By the way, picture perfect there. But you can see we kind of got a little oversold here on the E-mini. We just had to kind of stall out for a little bit. The RSI, I don't follow the RSI all that often, but I know some of you guys do. We had a little bit of a bullish divergence there on the RSI, so price is kind of starting to stall out a little bit. But basically, when you have a big downdraft like we did yesterday, it's very common for there to be kind of a pause the next day. But the fact that they really couldn't rally it back up, and if we flip back over to the spiders here, they couldn't really hold. We went into that 10-minute 50 moving average. They couldn't hold it there. It says we probably go test lower prices, and that would mean at least filling this gap here, which we got very close to today. But I think you can get down to that 100 moving average there. There's another gap right at around 408.06 there on the spider. So, and that basically coincides with that 100 moving average as well. So that could be where we're headed before the next bounce. Is that going to be a major bounce? We're going to have a huge move. I mean, we have Jackson Hole later this week. So the question is, do we make higher highs or lower highs? That remains to be seen. But for right now, I do think at least for tomorrow, I think the market looks a little soft, and bulls are kind of hesitant. I mean, nobody really wants to buy right here, right? If you're a bullish, you want like a significant enough pullback to get in. You're not trying to chase up at the highs here. So I think everybody's kind of just looking for a little bit more of a pullback here, and I think we'll get one. Triple Qs, you can take a look here. We kind of back tested this trend line. So we got above that, and then we broke back down yesterday. We back tested it just a little bit. If you can kind of zoom in here, you see we basically went up there and kissed it and then backed off. So eventually closing red here. Qs were kind of the leader for most of the day, though. You could see the spiders were making lower lows, and the Qs actually made higher highs. I actually day traded this a little bit for a quick little kind of scalp there on the long side. But the Qs were a little bit on the stronger side, as was the Russell. The Dow was down mainly due to XLV. This one got hit pretty hard. Again, another rising wedge there as well. But overall, Qs basically back testing this trend line and kind of fading off that. So again, short term, we probably head back to this this pivot here around 310.50. Maybe a little bit lower, maybe 310 even. You got that down sloping to 100 moving average rather, and then just below that you got that pivot high there as well. So there's some support in this area for the triple Qs. If we go down and tag that, we would expect some type of a bounce. Tesla was a really strong horse today, kind of offsetting that XLV weakness. This actually, you can take a look on the intraday here. This held up really well. It was in an uptrend all day long, and I would say for the bulls, the best bull case you have for the lows being in is this stock right here. This is a strong weekly pattern. So you have a nice weekly inside bar on Tesla. Probably needs a little bit more consolidation before it can get through this level, but this is a good pattern. It's one of the few patterns I've seen out there, especially on the weekly, that's actually strong. I mean, like Apple has been strong, right? But I mean, this isn't a strong pattern. This is a short squeeze, and it's way overbought and not healthy, right? So, but Tesla is a good, like that's for the bull case, that would be your main kind of your main piece there, I guess. But Tesla holding up really well. Apple getting into that 20 moving average. Got a bounce, but again, fell off the highs just like everything else. I think it comes down to this gap here, and then eventually here, and then you got the 50% fib there as well. So anyways, overall, let's not make too much out of today. It was basically a pause day. Again, I think we test some lower prices here going into tomorrow before the next bounce. We could bounce into Jackson Hole. You know, a lot of the time when the market kind of, you know, trades in one direction before a big announcement like a FOMC or Jackson Hole or something like that, usually you kind of get a counter trend move the next day. It depends on how long it lasts, though. You know, that's really kind of the big question there. You know, I think a lot of people are expecting a bounce at some point here, but do we make higher highs? Do we make all-time highs? Do we, you know, make a lower high? That's really kind of the question that everybody's supposedly fighting over. And you guys know which camp I'm in, so no reason going over that again. But overall, IWM, we talked about that. That was actually kind of on the stronger side. It was green today with the rest of the market red. It did go up and back test at 20 MA though, and it could not hold it. So a little bit of weakness there, but you know, you're kind of into this pivot here and it's kind of just pausing. You know, if it starts to put in a bear pattern, it can go lower. Again, though, if we test lower prices on the spiders, this will probably go down with it. You do have a little bit of a gap fill right there. Looks like we may have just kissed it yesterday, and then you got kind of some support at this green bar low as well. But Russell 2000 actually holding up okay, so that's also kind of a net positive there for the bulls. I want to show you the Dow futures too, YM here. So this was, Dow got hit the worst today, and a lot of that had to do with UNH. So we talked about XLV here, but UNH was down quite a bit today. That dragged down the Dow. But the Dow is into some support. So if you kind of take it's a little trend line right around here, you know, right in this area, you're basically into that now. You know, maybe you could head a little bit lower here, maybe get to that 100 moving average, but this was your breakout area, and that's where your breakout bar occurred. So the Dow should get some support in this area. Wouldn't surprise me if we bounced a little bit tomorrow. Maybe we test some lower price. My kind of theory is tomorrow, I think we're red in the first half of the day or maybe in the morning, and then I think we kind of recover towards the afternoon. At least that's kind of what I have penciled in, but you know, who really knows overall. Anyways, all right, let's flip over here. Let's get into the semis. So SMH up 65 basis points here. This was actually also kind of a strong name. So going into tomorrow, you can see had a nice bounce, and this was one of the few sectors that actually held kind of the gains from this morning, although it did fade off the highs into the latter part of the day. But you know, back tested that 100 moving average, you know, peeled back off of it a little bit. But this was actually a decent little bid there for the semis. So semis showing a little bit of strength. I got to double check. I was so bad about this, but I got to double check. I think NVIDIA is tomorrow. Let's make sure that they're not reporting now as I'm doing this. Yeah, I think it's tomorrow. So they will be reporting. Obviously, that can have a pretty significant impact on the market. NVIDIA is a pretty big stock. So maybe, who knows, a little bit of jockeying of a position ahead of NVIDIA's earnings. Maybe that's why the semis were up. Could be, but overall, they held up okay, and we'll give them the benefit of the doubt for now. IGV did get hit a little bit. Not down crazy, you know, down 22 BP, but basically still kind of making a lower low and flirting with that 100 moving average. Zoom is not part of the IGV, but it is a cloud stock, and it's an important cloud stock, and this got absolutely roasted today, down 16.5. You're basically back into double bottom here. I would not pick it up here. It is a little oversold. I mean, maybe as a day trade, if it pierced that double bottom, I would take it, but right now, see this, guys? That's a lot of volume. So this can pierce and go lower. So be careful with Zoom right now. I will say, personally, I'm not really a hodl person, but if Zoom got cheap enough, I would consider like opening a hodl position in this. I do like the company, and I do think, I mean, it's obvious their business model is where the future is going. And I think some of these companies, like this is one of the new school growth stocks. A lot of them are junk, total garbage. This is one of the ones that's actually not. And I wouldn't be opposed to doing that. I'm not saying everybody should do that or that I would do that here, but there may be a point where I do consider it. And I'm not really a hodl guy, but just something to consider. There's a lot of companies like these new school growth names, these like work from home names, and you know, these post-pandemic names that have just been so beaten down. But a lot of them have good, you know, like even like Teladoc. Like this business model is not going anywhere, you know. So if and when we come out of this thing, you know, some of these companies can survive. I think they have some pretty good growth potential, a la kind of like Amazon and Microsoft in the early 2000s. So just some food for thought there. But overall, IGV getting hit. and Zoom obviously leading the charge to the downside. XBI got defended pretty nicely today. The bull stepped up. We back tested the support area. This was your breakout. We basically tested that little gap window, and then we had a little bid off of that. So a nice little pop there for XBI. This is another one I day traded as well. We finished off the highs a little bit there going into the end of the day, but a nice float up into the afternoon for XBI. So that got defended nicely. Dow Transports, not really much to say. Just kind of a little inside day. It was up almost 0.7% here in a down market, in a flat market. So showing a little bit of strength, but overall, let's not make too much out of it. Just kind of an inside day there on the Dow Transports. So nothing really too eventful happening. Interest rates here, 10-year up 56 basis points. So this actually got hit a little bit earlier on. Notice TLT was bidding up, it gapped down and then bid up, and then if the TNX here gapped down, it looked like it was going to be a gap and crap day, but then it recovered nicely and closed green. So yields are continuing to be resilient here. Take a look at the 30-year, also green as well, up 43 basis points. If we flip over to the yield curves, you can see that, we tightened up a little bit, so that is kind of a net positive. But overall, I mean, look at how flat the 3-month and 10-year is right here. This is almost, if you flip over to the weekly, it's kind of like bear flagging down here. So that, and by the way, the 2 and 10 here is getting a bit off the lows, but it's still inverted. And the longer it remains inverted, the more damage it does, regardless of if it goes up, to 40 BP or 20 BP. As long as it's inverted, it's doing damage. So we're seeing here the 30 and 5s and 30s also kind of putting in a bit of a bear flag there potentially. So, short term, last day or two, we've kind of inched up a little bit with the spreads, but overall, the longer this stays like this, the more damage it does. And, it takes a while for that to be realized in the economy, but when it comes, and it will have an impact, believe it. Anyways, HYG, getting down to that 50 moving average, again, getting a little bounce off that. Nothing really too significant happening. It did hit the 50% fib as well from this low to this high, so this may be in for a little bit of a bounce here. But again, nothing really too eventful happening there. XHB, home builders, a little bit on the weaker side, so kind of taking out yesterday's lows, and it did fade a little bit more than kind of like the spiders did. We came down here and basically filled this gap. I think this wants that 50 moving average, that kind of 150 MA necktie at some point here, and you can see the ITB, same kind of thing, right in that area, I think. And you have a little bit of a kind of, this is sort of like kind of where you broke out. It was kind of a sloppy bull flag here. So that would be kind of like your back test area as well. So that would be a spot for a bounce on the ITB. Anyways, VNQ, again, same thing, red again. So that's the 6th day in a row there, red on the VNQ, and basically held that little gap window. So green bar low right there. We got a little bounce off of that. You still have a gap right here. And again, been saying this last couple of weeks, I don't like this gap. Not a healthy sign. So, and look what we're seeing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days in a row down. Wouldn't be surprising to me if we filled this gap tomorrow here on VNQ before it bounces. And then, of course, below that, you've got the 50 moving average there as well. So VNQ a little bit on the weaker side. XLF also lagging a little bit. It's surprising to me. So this morning we tried to bounce, just like the rest of the market. Got a little bit of a bid in the morning, and then it faded. So you couldn't hold this 20 moving average, even though you were short-term oversold into it. Both the 20 and the 100 for that matter. So XLF is probably going to want to go and fill that gap here, maybe even tomorrow before it gets a bounce. But that's kind of a weak showing. This should have bounced at the 20 moving average. And XBD, we've been talking about this a lot lately, and not a really good move here. I mean, like it got a little bit, it's a pause. It could bounce tomorrow. So there's always, that chance. Sometimes you pause before you reverse. But this should have blasted off of this. So I mean, this is a big move. Usually that first pullback gives you another big thrust, but again, I keep saying this every single day, but we didn't build any support on the way up. So this can get flushed as fast as it went up, and it's not showing me much off of that 20 moving average, at least not today. Doesn't mean it can't change tomorrow, but a little bit of a weak showing there for the broker dealers. Anyways, let's get into crude. Strong day today, follow through from yesterday with the basically the OPEC basically saying production, they're going to cut production. So up 3.5 right now on spot crude. I said yesterday, if this gives us a bullish pattern, and if it, pushes up and gives you a flag or something, I think it's very possible the bottom is in. However, I'm still in the camp. We've got one more little leg down. I'm going to show you here. You've got a weekly inside bar. So we still have a little bear flag here, weekly inside bar for crude. So until that gets negated, I still got this going down to like the low 80s, maybe even sub 80. But for right now, it's had a nice move off the lows. And you're above, you did something today. You're above that 20 moving average for the first time in, let's see, all the way back to June. So we tried to get above it, tried to test it a couple of times. We're never able to do that. Now we have. So that's the first kind of technical change that's happened in crude. But I still think weekly is more dominant. I still give it that downside bias right now. But I am open to the idea of it, making a move up and then possibly flagging. If it does that, I would possibly be interested in getting on long in a crude play. And XLE, here's your kind of case for that to happen. XLE broke out of that pennant we've been talking about. One thing I'll note though is a lot of the time when you get rising wedge patterns, you'll get a fake break and then it will roll back over. That's certainly a possibility. Jackson hole, anything can happen. But for right now, XLE is showing some relative strength here. That's a strong move to get above that rising trend line and above this gap window there. So XLE is showing some strength. XOP as well. It did pull back pretty sharply off the highs, but you're into some fair resistance here. But again, it still had a nice gap up. A nice solid green day, and OIH as well. That's a powerful move there. A pretty good power gap, and you had follow through up 5%. Finished a little bit off the highs, but not much. I mean, that's a pretty good move there for OIH. So the energy stocks, it's like we talk about all the time. The gold miners, you want to see the gold miners leading spot price. That's kind of a bullish sign. Well, if you got the energy stocks leading spot crude, that's also kind of a bullish indicator. So definitely on my radar here. As far as energy prices right now. And then nat gas finally got up to $10. So 10.02, just under 10.03, and a pretty good sizable engulfing reversal with decent volume. I still think this can go higher though. I wouldn't rule it out yet. I have a level a little bit higher on nat gas, but we're not there yet. That's a pretty good reversal though. I'm not ready to count natty out though just yet. I wouldn't do anything with it right now. It's too overbought and extended, but definitely respect it and give it an upside bias until proven otherwise. Dollar index pulling back pretty sharply, down about 0.5%. It did finish off the lows though. I'm still thinking this has to go up there and get to that 110 area. But a nice little pause day there for the dollar. Let's not make too much out of it. And of course, gold liking that very much so. We talked about this yesterday. And speaking of leading indicators, said GDX had an impressive reversal yesterday. And we noted Agnico Eagle, the really good dip and flip, gap down and rallied up, engulfing. Newmont finished green yesterday. So GDX kind of leading a little bit, and that had a little follow through today. It did pull back off the highs, to be fair, but the rest of the market was red. And, this is green in a down market, so that's a positive. And then you see here gold getting a bid off that trend line. So nice little bid there. I think gold can make it low here and put in an ABC up pattern. Silver, possibly same kind of thing, but a little bit on the weaker side. By the way, if you guys took the cycles course Sunday, you should be able to see why silver got a bid today. But in any case, still kind of making that higher low potentially, but it is weaker. Again, the industrial aspect can be a double-edged sword there sometimes for silver. And then platinum also into a really good support area. I think this is going higher. Full disclosure, I do own PPLT, so that is long platinum. I am long. But I love this area here, and I love this pullback pattern on platinum. Palladium, kind of a nothing burger here after yesterday's sell-off. And then copper, a decent update, so up just under 1%. I want to see this do more flagging. If it does, this can get a pretty good leg up, so I'll be on watch for that with spot copper. All right, lastly, Bitcoin. Let's get over. So Bitcoin remains weak here. So, up 0.25% here. Or excuse me, 0.75% here on the day. But again, just building that inside bar. This is not a pattern of strength any way you slice it or dice it. If you somehow rally up and close above this red bar high, that would be pretty bullish here, in my opinion, definitely in the short term. Same thing with Ether here, this red bar high, so 1847 spot 2. But for right now, it's just in a really weak technical position. You had, you see the whole way down, bear flag, down, big bear flag, down, another bear flag. Now what do we got here? Oh, another bearish inside bar. So Bitcoin remains weak, and definitely have to take that into consideration moving forward. Anyways, let's wrap it up here. So yeah, spiders did finish lower. Obviously got close to that gap. I still favor a little bit more downside here, possibly into tomorrow. And then it's really anybody's guess into Jackson Hole. I think we do bounce at some point. Obviously, the question is, do we make a lower high? Do we come back into this trend line again? Or do we push higher? But that remains to be seen. Anyways, guys, going to wrap it up here. You guys take care. Thank you all for watching, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.